Good afternoon, Ambassador Bachman.
Good afternoon.
With regards to the ongoing war with Hamas, we would like to ask you some questions. What is the current situation in Israel, and why did Israel launch a military campaign in Gaza?
Well, right now we are in the midst of ceasefire, one in too many that wasn't observed by the Hamas. This one is not observed as well. There were 4 or 5 cases of fire from Gaza, and the situation is fragile. It depends very much on the Hamas and the fire from Gaza. We have reached now the situation that we actually asked for from the very beginning, before we started this operation. What we wanted is quiet for quiet. No fire from Gaza, there will be no fire from Israel. But the Hamas did not accept it. We had a few days of 80 missiles and rockets fired into Israeli soil, causing damage and creating chaos in the normal life of millions of Israelis. We cannot accept this to continue. And we had no other choice. The fire, instead of stopping the fire, it went on and more intensively. So we went out to this operation to stop the fire. The whole idea is to stop the fire, to debilitate Hamas, to damage and exterminate their infrastructure to the largest extent possible, and to, at the end of the day, to demilitarize Gaza from the deadly weapons it has that is used frequently against Israel.
So, what is Israel hoping to achieve? What's the final goal here?
Well, as I mentioned, the military operation is supposed to achieve debilitation of the Hamas in the sense of no fire, in the sense of having much less infrastructure to be used for such purposes, and to get to a kind of an, I don't know if it would be directly with the Hamas, because we have no context with Hamas, no dialogue with Hamas. It is an organization that is not having any dialogue with Israel. The Hamas Magna Carta is talking about the elimination of the state of Israel, the extermination of the state of Israel. Dialogue is not one of the things that is in their arsenal. It is only weapons. So if there's no dialogue, we have to fight. And if there would be a possibility for a ceasefire to come into this situation, what we would look for would be to demilitarize Gaza, and this would be for the benefit of both the Gazans, because they are taken hostage by the Hamas. They suffer. The Hamas is, very tough on the civilians in Gaza. Life is very difficult, let alone the economical situation and the animosity with Israel. I'm talking about the daily life. You're not supposed to be happy. You're not supposed to be dressed like this. And when there are even weddings, at the wedding party, you're not supposed to play certain music. The life is miserable. They have used 160 children, boys, girls. I assume boys more than girls, to dig those tunnels through which they had these hopes, and in few cases those hopes were materialized, to attack Israelis and to create, to cause casualties and losses on Israeli soil.
Now, speaking about civilians, why are we seeing such a high death toll when it comes to Palestinian civilians? And what is Israel going to do in order to prevent civilian casualties in the ongoing conflict?
Well, I think that if you want to find a good example of what the clash of civilization is, you'll find it in the Gaza Strip. On one side, you have Israelis that are trying to prevent the loss of life on both sides, and the other side, you have Hamas that is looking for casualties on both sides. It serves them in both cases. Israeli casualties makes them victorious in Gaza. Gazans dead and wounded makes a production of pressures over Israel from the international community. You have on one side Israel that invests billions in an Iron Dome system to prevent fire from causing damages in Israel. A very successful system. It's not a shelf type of system. On the shelf, it's not on the stock anywhere. It's a newly invented for these purposes, very successful. We have shelters all over the country. We have early alert systems. So much money is invested in this, so much electronics, so much thinking to prevent losses. And well, the Hamas is doing exactly the opposite. And I know that many of those that watch me right now are having this constant question. How come, a child with a stone against this superpower with helicopters and fighters? So it's very easy. It is not that we use this to create damage. We use those sophisticated weapons to be precise and to be surgical, to get to the terrorist that is perpetrating the launching of the missile right now, and not to get to his neighbors. That's why it's so costly. It's so costly to have this Iron Dome system. It's so costly to have sophisticated bombs that would aim exactly to the right window and not next to it. This is a lot of money and a lot of energy that is invested in order to prevent the loss of unnecessary and uninvolved individuals in the conflict.
Looking ahead, what are the perspectives now for ending this conflict, and what are important elements for Israel when it comes to a possible future ceasefire?
Well, it depends on the Hamas, as we said from the very beginning of this operation, even earlier than that. Prior to the operation, there were a few consecutive days with tens of rockets fired into Israel, and what we demanded was simple: quiet would be met by quiet. It was very easy. If they had a good intention, if they wanted to spare the lives of their own citizens and to create a better atmosphere in Gaza for their own constituency, if to say so, on people that are taken hostages by a terrible and brutal government of Hamas and terrorists that through the Palestinian Authority, through is mildly put, they assassinated dozens of those and took over. So the whole idea is to have quiet in Israel. Quiet will be met by quiet. For the long run, after the ceasefire will be put in place, what we want as a long-term understanding is to demilitarize Gaza. There is no way that we would go for such operations every 1 year or 2 years. In 5 years, this is the third time we're going out for such an operation. It's not good for the Gazans themselves. It's not good for the international community, let alone for us, for Israelis. There should be an end to it, and the end to it could arrive only and if Gaza will be demilitarized. Look what happened with international aid money that came into Gaza. It went to build tunnels when we were pressured by the international community to let cement and building materials to come into Gaza to rehabilitate the Gaza Strip. It has been channeled into these tunnels. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of tons of cement went for these tunnels, and you have international aid money going to buy rockets. How is this creating a better life for Gazans? This is something that should be stopped, first and foremost, by international community that shouldn't spend its resources on this. And first and foremost, it is Iran and Qatar. Qatar is pumping money only for this. This is what they do. The money comes from Qatar. Hamas takes this money, immediately buys all these goodies that is launched towards Israel. And Iran is giving them the resources, but more important, they're training them. They're bringing them in or coming into Gaza to teach them how to better have long-range fire and more precise with more dynamite and so on and so forth. So this is a deadly combination that the international community should work together to stop this vicious circle of injecting money, injecting missiles and all the mechanisms that makes it possible for the Hamas to continue this war that is, it would be endless, because what they want is for us to vanish. We have no plans to vanish. We can dialogue, but they don't want any dialogue, because there isn't, the element is not territory, land and compromises. For them, no place for Israel on the planet, on the face of this planet, let alone in the Middle East. So unfortunately, we are dragged into a defensive war that the world is falling into a trap of looking at the casualties. It is tragic. We are in fully understanding of how tragic it is. We have to confront this physically. Our youngsters, our soldiers, this is a compulsory service. They go to the army to defend the nation. It is not an army of professionals. They come back and they stay with this, images for life. It is not fun at all. We don't like to do that. But is there any other choice? How can we live when 2/3 of the nation is paralyzed because there's this barrages of fire that would make you run for a shelter? And how can you run business? How can you run an airport when you have those missiles running all over the place? There's no way any nation would accept it. Would Sweden accept, if you take Stockholm and name it Tel Aviv, would you take Uppsala as Gaza, 70 kilometers more or less? And would Stockholm look at Uppsala interfering in the life of Stockholmers constantly with tens of thousands of missiles fired constantly? There's no government here, no matter what color, what party would be in power, no government, be it right, left, center, alliance, social democratic or any other, no leader of today's politics in Sweden would accept such a thing and would even act with more vigorous usage of the military apparatus, the Swedish one. I think that what we are doing is being very calculated. The world has not expressed its concerns when we had to absorb those tens of thousands of missiles. Only when we go out to defend ourselves. It's about time to think how to prevent it altogether. And the solution should be demilitarizing Gaza and putting an end to this terrorism that, by the way, is an international one. Hamas is no different than Al-Qaeda or the ISIS now in Iraq and Syria with its brutality, or Boko Haram in Nigeria. This is an Islamic terror organization that sees, like its parallels worldwide, the whole world as a battlefield. And when you are hearing about things going to happen, hopefully not, because it is a responsible government in Norway that takes the precautions to prevent such things. But it is all over the place. What Norway is now trying to prevent, we have in thousands. It's not a one or a group of 2 or 3 that we are supposed to defend from. It is thousands of those that we have to defend ourselves, and we have to get the approval and the encouragement of the international community, and not to get their other cheek and their condemnations to what we're doing. We know that the cost is not easy on Gazans, but for the long run, what we're doing is good for the Gazans themselves at the end of the day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador.